Ben Shephard has always been the kind of man who could light up an entire room just by walking into it. Whether he was cracking jokes on live television, making his colleagues laugh until they cried, or delivering one of his classic, cheeky smiles straight into the camera, Ben had a way of making viewers feel like everything was going to be okay. He was warmth. He was charm. He was energy. But behind that familiar glow, a very different reality was unfolding, one that only his wife, Annie, truly saw. For months, Annie noticed the little things, the way Ben's shoulders drooped at the end of the day, the quiet sighs he tried to hide when he thought no one was looking, the moments when his smile faded just a little too quickly. Ben, of course, insisted he was fine, that he was just tired, that it was nothing to worry about. And because he was Ben, her Ben, the man who joked through stress, the man who could laugh his way through anything, Annie tried to believe him. But love has instincts, strong instincts, and Annie's instincts were screaming at her that something deeper was happening beneath the surface. It started subtly, a skipped outing here, a canceled event there. Ben, the man who never stopped moving, suddenly wanted more rest than usual. And yet every morning he would push himself to the studio, put on his signature grin, and give the nation the bright, joyful energy they adored him for. He never wanted to let anyone down, especially Annie. But love doesn't stay silent forever. And one evening, after a particularly difficult day, everything changed. Ben walked through the door, trying to keep himself upright with that same brave smile. Annie greeted him with her usual warmth, ready to tease him about something silly, maybe his tie, maybe his hair. But the smile she expected wasn't there. Instead, Ben sat down quietly on the edge of the sofa, took a long breath, and said, "I think we need to talk." And in that moment, the world seemed to pause. Annie, with all her grace, knelt beside him. She held his hand. She listened. And for the first time, Ben allowed himself to admit just how much he'd been struggling. He hadn't wanted to worry her. He hadn't wanted to disrupt our routine. He certainly hadn't wanted to frighten anyone. But the symptoms he'd been hiding were becoming too hard to push through. The following hours became a blur of concern, urgency, and decisions no family wants to make. They headed straight for medical help, hoping it was something simple, maybe exhaustion, stress, anything that could be fixed with rest. But the news they received was far heavier than they ever imagined. Ben needed immediate and serious care. The moment those words reached Annie's ears, she felt the floor disappear beneath her. Her heart raced, her hands shook. The world around her seemed to blur into one long echo of fear. But she stayed right there beside him, holding his hand, breathing with him, promising him that whatever came next, they would face it together. Because that's who they were. Partners, best friends, a team. The days that followed were some of the hardest Annie had ever lived through. Long nights, quiet rooms, constant worry. Moments filled with love, but overshadowed by uncertainty. She stayed close, refusing to let fear silence her hope. Every time Ben opened his eyes, she tried to give him a smile, even if hers was trembling. And yet even in the middle of all this, there were moments, small, sweet moments that reminded them of the love that carried them through the years. Ben, ever the joker, tried to lighten the tension whenever he had the strength. One afternoon, after a check-in from the medical team, he whispered, "If I get through this, I'm never complaining about doing the dishes again." Annie laughed so hard she startled a nurse. In that laughter, in that ridiculous promise, they found a precious sliver of normal. Even in difficulty, love makes room for laughter. As word slowly reached colleagues and friends, messages of support began pouring in. People who had worked with Ben for years reached out with heartfelt notes, funny stories, and memories of moments that highlighted the joy he brought to everyone around him. Many admitted they couldn't imagine the studio without his energy, and the entire ITV team felt noticeably quieter, as though the heart of the room had momentarily dimmed. Behind the scenes, Annie read many of the messages aloud to Ben, watching his eyes brighten as he heard how much he was missed. He couldn't talk much, but he always managed to whisper one thing: "Tell them I'm grateful, truly." That gratitude, that softness, that humility, it was everything that made Ben who he was. Even when he was the one in need, he found strength in thinking of others. There were days of progress, days of setbacks, days of uncertainty. Annie held on to all of them, refusing to let fear steal her hope. Whenever things improved even slightly, she would squeeze Ben's hand and whisper, "You're doing it, you're fighting, and I'm right here." Their sons, showing a courage beyond their years, offered quiet strength, visiting, encouraging, and reminding their father that he was deeply loved. They helped Annie stay grounded, bringing warmth into the room with little jokes, family stories, and silly attempts to make Ben laugh. Slowly, gently, signs of recovery began to show. Ben's voice grew stronger. His smile returned, not the forced one he wore for television, but the genuine one, the one Annie had fallen in love with. His eyes held more focus, his hands steadied. Every small improvement felt like a victory. And it wasn't just the medical care, it wasn't just rest, it was love. The kind of love that reaches into the darkest moments and plants a spark that refuses to die out. Annie later shared a message, not dramatic, not exaggerated, just honest. She explained how heavy the past weeks had been, how deeply she feared losing the man who meant everything to her, and how grateful she was for every moment of progress. Her words didn't just touch people, they moved them. Fans across the world responded with encouragement, prayers, and messages of hope. People shared memories of Ben making them laugh during difficult times, and how they were now standing with him as he fought through his own. Through all the fear, there was something incredibly beautiful forming around the Shephard family, a circle of support, of love, of unity that stretched far beyond their own home. And now, as Ben continues his recovery journey, Annie describes their days with one simple phrase: "We're taking it step by step, with love leading the way." Because love, steady, loyal, stubborn love, doesn't give up, and neither are they. As their story continues, one thing is clear: Ben Shephard's light hasn't dimmed. It's growing stronger. And with every smile he regains, every laugh he shares, and every moment he spends surrounded by the people who adore him, the world is reminded of the incredible bond this family shares. A bond built on humor, a bond built on devotion, a bond built on love that refuses to break. And as long as that love remains, brighter days aren't just possible, they're on the way.